Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really cool story about how just one person's belief can set off this huge chain reaction, one that changes an entire culture. And we're going to do that by looking at the life of Lian, a man who sparked an incredible spiritual and social transformation within his community in Myanmar.
So, you gotta ask, right? How does one person actually change the faith of a whole community? Can one person really make that big of a difference? Well, the life of Lian, a pastor and evangelist for the Zomi people, gives us a powerful case study for how it can absolutely happen. You know, he's often been called the John Wesley of his people. Now, if you know anything about church history, that is a massive compliment. It's not just saying he was a good speaker. No. It means he was a true movement builder. And to really get what he did, we first have to go back and see the world he was walking into.
Okay, so first things first, to really appreciate Kham's work, you have to understand the situation he was up against. We're talking about a faith that, for a lot of people, just didn't have much conviction left.
The big issue here was what you'd call nominal Christianity. And all that really means is that people were Christian by name, but not really in practice. Think of it more like a cultural ID card rather than a deep personal faith. The reports from that time paint a picture of a community that didn't really have a grasp on core ideas, like salvation.
And for Kham, this wasn't some abstract theological problem he was reading about in a book. This was real. He saw it with his own eyes when he was visiting people from his church in their homes. He saw this massive gap between what they said they believed and how they were actually living. And that realization, well, it lit a fire under him. This led to two huge kind of paradigm-shifting moments for him. First, he reads an article by Billy Graham, and it just clicks. He decides to reject some of the more liberal theology he had been taught and fully embrace the Bible as the absolute infallible Word of God. Then, second, seeing the spiritual apathy in his own congregation, it gave him this incredible sense of urgency. He knew he had to preach the core gospel message of salvation loud and clear. These two convictions right there, they became the engine for absolutely everything that happened next.
All right, section 2, the Crusades' turning point. This is where it gets really good. So he's got these powerful new beliefs, right? But how do you turn that into a real movement?
Well, he did something pretty bold. He took his message right out into the open. I mean, picture this. April 1973, he launches a week-long crusade on a football field. You've got this charismatic, energetic singing and really direct, persuasive preaching. This was totally different. But, and this is crucial, it didn't work right away. Not at all. The first 2 nights, he's preaching his heart out, being aggressive, persuasive, and not one single person comes forward. You can just imagine the frustration. It drove him to his knees, literally. He spent an entire night just crying out to God. And then, on that 3rd night, finally, a breakthrough. One young man steps forward. And that one person, that single conversion, it was like the dam breaking. It just opened the floodgates. Suddenly, this phrase born again started spreading like wildfire, describing this new, very personal kind of faith. And that crusade, that moment, is now seen as the official starting point for the whole Zumi renewal movement. Okay, so we've got the spark, but how do you turn that into a raging fire? That brings us to our next section, building an army of believers. Because Khan was smart. He knew he couldn't do this by himself.
His motto really says it all: to bring as many people as possible to Christ in the shortest possible time. That's not just a nice phrase, that's a strategy. It's about speed, it's about scale. And to pull that off, he needed way more than just his own voice. He needed to build an army.
And this is where that John Wesley comparison just hits the nail on the head. See, Wesley was famous for using lay preachers, regular people, to spread Methodism across England. And Kham did the exact same thing. He focused on what's called lay witnessing. He didn't just want converts sitting in pews. He wanted to motivate them, equip them, and then send them out to share their faith. He turned every new believer into a potential evangelist.
So what was the long-term result of all this? That brings us to our final section, a transformed community. Because the legacy here goes way beyond just individual faith. It completely reshaped the social fabric of the Zumi people.
On the theological side, you can see the impact really clearly. Kham's focus on the Bible and on personal conversion laid the groundwork for evangelical and Pentecostal beliefs to become the main traditions among the Zumi, which they still are today. But here's what's really fascinating. The movement didn't just stay inside the church. This spiritual renewal led to a new sense of social responsibility, something they called the cultural mandate. Basically, it's the idea that your faith isn't just about you and God, It comes with the responsibility to go out and make your community a better place.
And they didn't just talk about it, they did it. This led to very real, tangible action. All of a sudden you have churches and individuals starting orphanages, opening up private clinics, donating to relief funds. Even cultural norms started to shift. People began giving their kids Christian names, holding these big community Thanksgiving festivals. The faith became something you could see and feel in everyday life.
So, what does it take for one person's conviction to reshape an entire culture? The story of Lian and Kham gives us a pretty powerful answer. It shows that when you combine a clear, focused vision with a strategy that actually empowers a whole community, well, you can create ripples that last for generations. And that kind of leaves you wondering, doesn't it? What ripples are we creating?